What is up, people? Welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. This week we got Nassourdine Imavov taking a huge step up in competition and fighting former title holder and one of the GOATs of the middleweight division, Israel Adesanya. This is going to be a banger of a card, as it always is, because I'm an absolute MMA nerd. I love watching fights, so almost any card is a banger, but there are some favorable and interesting matchups on this card that I want to speak about with you directly. I'm also going to give you my betting analysis, betting predictions, picks, and hopefully help you make some money this weekend. At the end of the show, I'm also doing a giveaway where I'm giving away 1 free month to my VIP MMA Bet and Picks membership group, so definitely stick around for that. And as always, I'll be sprinkling in some golden nuggets of information on how I became a broke sports bettor to a professional sports bettor, and giving you some information on how hopefully you can one day do the same. So without further ado, run that banging intro, do a little dance, and let's get into the fights. All right, so boys, first things first, we need to understand that this card is in the Middle East, right? It's in Saudi Arabia. This is UFC Saudi Arabia. And something I want to say to you straight off the jump, before we even break down the fights, is pretty important, and it's something that we have to know when we're making bets on this type of fight card. And it is that we have seen time and time again over the UFC and the whole of MMA, especially recently, that the judging in these parts of the world can be very, very poor and biased to hometown fighters or fighters with a connection in that region. Let's go back to the end of last year. Rinat Fakhretdinov fought Carlos Leal, and that fight took place in Abu Dhabi. And it actually went down as one of the worst robberies of 2024. You know, if you go back and look at Tapology, if you look at the media scorecards and the outcry on social media in general, it goes down as one of the worst MMA robberies of 2024. Most people had that fight scored for Carlos Leal. Me included. I had a massive bet on Carlos Leal, one of the biggest moneyline bets I made last year. It was 4.5 units at plus 200. I missed out on a lot of money there. But something we have to understand is that that fight was in Rinat Fakhretdinov's part of the world in Abu Dhabi. He's not from Abu Dhabi, but he's from that part of the world, right? He's Muslim, he's connected to that region. And in my opinion, that was a clear example of hometown bias for the hometown fighter. We fast forward to just last weekend at the PFL event, Nurmagomedov took on Paul Hughes. And I actually broke that down in that entire card last week on this channel. And if we rewind to that, I said that Nurmagomedov is going to win a decision, but that all the value is on Paul Hughes. And if you're making a bet, you have to bet Paul Hughes at a crazy number of plus 400. So I do think Usman will come out with the win, but man, Paul Hughes is who you want to be putting your money on this weekend. Please don't bet Usman Nurmagomedov at minus 410. I don't care if he wins or not. There's no value in that pre-fight. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe he covers the line. I just don't see it. I think Paul Hughes is going to make it a gritty fight. I think Paul Hughes is going to make it a back and forth fight. And I genuinely think he can take the title off Usman this weekend. Now, that fight was in Dubai. And again, Usman Nurmagomedov has ties to that region. And again, from most people's perspective, it was one of the worst decisions of the entire year of 2025. And I think when we look back on the year, this will stand out as top 10, one of the worst decisions of 2025. It's not the worst decision of all time. You know, some of the rounds were close. But giving Paul Hughes only 1 round in the entire fight is absolutely ridiculous to me. And I really think it comes down to the judging and hometown bias of fighters in that region. So the UFC card this weekend, right, is in this region again. So if there are fighters like Shara Magomedov, Said Nurmagomedov, Mohamed Naimov, that are fighting on the card, which we do have, we have to take that into account, that if the fight goes to decision, these fighters may be getting a little bit of help from the judges. It's not a guarantee, but straight off the rip, boys, I want to give you this information because you're putting your hard-earned money on this card. You have to know the rules, the facts, and what you're going into. So we'll get straight into the card now, but we are aware that there may be some hometown cooking yet again. But firstly, I actually do want your opinion on a Paul Hughes fight. I had a very, very big bet on Paul Hughes at plus 400. It was a 3-unit bet to return 15 units with 12 units of profit. So obviously I'm biased, you know, but I genuinely thought he won the fight, and I thought at worst it would be a draw. He also got a point deduction. So seeing 4-1 to Usman was, you know, quite disheartening. So let me know in the comments your opinion on that fight in general. I'm gonna get straight into the card. So the main event of the evening is Israel Style bender. Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov. This is a very good fight, boys. We got Israel Adesanya, the former champion, coming in with a record of 24-4. And it's crazy because 3 of those 4 losses have come in the last couple of years. And then we have Nassourdine Imavov coming in with a somewhat similar record, 15-4. So Izzy, way more experience, 9 more wins than Imavov, but they share the same number of losses at only 4. Now they got the odds for this one sitting at -145 for Israel Adesanya, so money's coming in on Imavov. And then Nassourdine Imavov, he's got the underdog price tag of +125. This is a very good fight, boys, and I think 5 years ago, Izzy would be a much bigger favorite. But obviously, seeing him lose multiple times recently, as I mentioned in the intro, against Alex Pereira, against Dricus du Plessis, and against Sean Strickland, his stock is obviously lowered heavily in the middleweight division. It's funny because, you know, I felt like his motivation wasn't really there the last couple of years. But in the DDP fight, it seemed like he had a lot of motivation. He was coming into that one mentally pretty strong. You know, Sean Strickland press conference, he's crying. DDP press conference, he's zen, you know, he's in a good mindset for the most part. And then he fights very well in that fight. You know, I thought we've almost got the old Izzy back, but he just falls apart later in the round. He starts getting cracked a little bit and he got submitted. And I actually bet on Dricus du Plessis there. I also bet on Dricus du Plessis to win via submission. So it wasn't a surprise that it happened, but the way in which it happened, it was a little bit surprising, you know. It was like the first takedown du Plessis got, he just gave up his back. Adesanya gave up his back instantly. It almost looked like a skip. Du Plessis took the back and he just choked him out. And Izzy didn't even really try to turn with it. He was very slow with his defense. He didn't try to attack the body lock. He didn't try to attack the hands, really. He tapped very fast. It wasn't even like some super tight rear naked choke. And I mean, it was just a strange sequence. It was a strange sequence, boys. And yeah, I guess, you know, it was the 4th round of the fight. Izzy was probably tired. Izzy's not a good grappler in general, so he probably wasn't ready for that pressure that du Plessis can bring, but it just wasn't a good look. I'll tell you that. It wasn't a good look. I feel like 5 years ago, I think Izzy rolls out of that rear naked choke. I genuinely do. You know, I don't think he taps to that one. I think he gets out of it. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. I do think Izzy's physically not in his prime anymore. Mentally, I don't think he's in his prime anymore. Skill set wise, he's a very good fighter. You know, this is going to be a good fight, boys. Like, let's break down the fight a little bit. Let's speak technicality. You know, I've spoke a lot about intangibles and the judging and stuff, Izzy's age, whatever. Let's speak about the fight. I love striking, so this is a delight for me because they both have very good MMA striking. Big difference between like elite level striking and MMA striking. But I love MMA striking for what it is, you know. It's very tailored to MMA. Imavov has a very good MMA striking game. What I mean by that is good range control on the outside, low hands to defend takedown attempts, right? You're not going to be having low hands like that in a Muay Thai fight. You're going to get kicked in the head, right? I mean, some fighters do it a little bit, but for the most part, you're getting kicked in the head, you know, at elite level striking. But when it comes to MMA, it can benefit you to have your hands down there because you can avoid shots really well, and fighters are not very good at striking in MMA. So if your hands down there, if your hands are down, then it kind of throws them off, right? They're not really used to seeing that. So the jabs, when they're coming from low, it's harder to defend for a poorer striker, which MMA guys are, right? They're not elite level strikers for the most part. So Imavov has a very good striking game for MMA, bounces in and out of range, good front kicks, good distance control. He has very good counters off jabs. He has a decent jab himself. And yeah, I just like the way he moves in the octagon and he lands his shots. Israel Adesanya is similar in that, you know, he likes to stay on the outside, good range control, good distance management, good kicks, etc., etc. So I feel like on the feet, this fight could be a little bit low paced, a little bit tepid, a little bit boring, you know, with both fighters having some upside. I mean, we've seen time and time again, boys, where Izzy doesn't really do much on the outside against fighters who do the same, right? When fighters are running forward, like Derek Brunson or Sean Strickland, even though it didn't happen with Sean Strickland, Izzy is good at fighting those fighters, right? Izzy can counter them very well. You know, Derek Brunson ran in and just got his face demolished by all types of strikes, right? Knees, straights, etc., etc. But when he's fighting someone who stays on the outside as well, like Yoel Romero did, or Robert Whittaker in the second fight to some degree, he doesn't really pull away, right? So I do think that the fight can be close on the feet, even though Izzy's a better striker, the fight can still be close. And I actually believe that Nassourdine Imavov can win some rounds on the feet here based on Izzy's decline in durability. We've seen him hurt, wobble, dropped in multiple fights in all of his losses, you know, in the, or at least the recent losses. Jan Blachowicz didn't really wobble him, but Alex Pereira knocked him out. Sean Strickland dropped him very hard, and Sean doesn't do that to a lot of people. And then Dricus du Plessis wobbled him, basically dropped him as well, right? So I think that his durability is declining. So I do believe that if it is a low-paced affair, Nassourdine Imavov has the power upside here. He could crack him, he could wobble him, he could win a round off a wobble, potentially even knock him out. And then when we speak about the wrestling and grappling, I think that's all on the Nassourdine Imavov side, right? So I'm going to pick Nassourdine Imavov to win this fight. I think that he's catching Izzy at the right time. I think that 5 years ago I would pick Izzy outright. I may even max bet Israel Adesanya, but it's not 5 years ago. It's not 2020. It's 2025. And Izzy's seen the top of the division multiple times. He's carried the belt more than once. He's moved up. He's tried to fight Jan Blachowicz for a second belt in a second weight class. I mean, the guy has absolutely done it all. And Imavov's going to be super hungry for this fight. Izzy's probably hungry too. You know, I've seen some videos of him. I've heard from inside his camp that he is hungry. Mentally, he is there. But at the end of the day, even if mentally you're there, physically you may not be. And I do think he's lost a step physically. Not only with the decline in durability, but also with reaction timing. You know, I said Dricus du Plessis locked in that rear naked choke way too quickly for comfort. And I don't think that would have happened 5 years ago. And I don't think Israel Adesanya's grappling has got so much worse in the last 5 years. It's probably even got a little bit better. But I just believe the reaction timing, the slight motivation to be in there and grueling fights, these things can make a big difference on the mat rather than just pure jiu-jitsu skills. You know what I mean? Like, those things can actually mean a lot more than pure jiu-jitsu skills. So yeah, I'm going to go with Nassourdine Imavov here. Not the most confident pick of all time, but that's my prediction. I think he can win the fight multiple ways. I actually think that him via submission at plus 850 is not the worst play of all time, because I do think there's levels on the mat. You know, Izzy's a striker at the end of the day, but he can also just win a decision here. And he can even win a knockout based on Izzy's decline in durability. So I think Nassourdine Imavov money line is the play. Maybe you poke the decision as well. But like I said, it's not my most confident pick on the entire card, but it is my pick. The next one is Shara Magomedov putting his undefeated 15-0 record on the line against Michael Venom Page, who is putting his 22-3 record on the line. So pretty shiny records for both of these fighters. And currently they have Shara Magomedov as the favorite at minus 175, with the comeback underdog price tag on Michael Venom Page sitting at a plus 150. So very interesting fight for me, boys. And this fight kind of comes down to the judging piece I spoke about earlier. And I'll tell you exactly why. Like, Shara Magomedov is from Russia, but he's from the Caucasus. He's a Muslim fighter fighting in Saudi Arabia. So if there is any bias, most likely it will go to him. And seeing my bets, not just fighters, but literally my bets lose time and time again lately to these judges' robberies like Carlos Leal and Paul Hughes I mentioned. In this region, it's very, very tough to get behind the Michael Venom Page play. Because honestly, when the fight was announced, I'm like, all right, if Page is an underdog, which he probably will be because Shara's got massive hype, then I probably will bet Page here. Because stylistically, it's a good matchup for Michael Venom Page. I mean, it's a decent matchup for Shara as well, to be honest. I feel like stylistically, it's a good matchup for both of them. They're both going to be able to get their game off the way they want to. And what I mean by that, it's a striking matchup, right? Both fighters are full strikers. Shara's a striker. Michael Venom Page is a lifelong striker. And they're not grapplers, so they're not going to grapple each other, right? So they're strikers who are going to get a striking fight, right? So they're going to be able to show and display their skills in full. And man, there's not many people on the planet that's going to beat Michael Venom Page in an MMA striking fight. I was saying this for years, and maybe I was biased because he's English. Whatever, I support my English guys. I always will. So maybe I was a bit biased, but I feel like I've been proven right. You know, I was shouting that he was a good fighter all along, and the entire MMA community said he's terrible. You know, he basically just getting favorable matchups, which he was in Bellator. But you have to be able to distinguish. First, bias, because people don't like him because he does, you know, dances and stuff like that, right? So it just makes people emotional. You know, emotional people can't really see through certain silly things, trivial things that don't actually matter in terms of skill sets, like dancing. But second of all, because he was fighting cans, oftentimes people can't differentiate and pluck out and notice skill sets if the fighter isn't fighting a good fighter. You know, and that's a very good skill in MMA. If you are able to see a fighter who fights a bum, but then able to determine whether that fighter is actually good or not. It's not easy to do it when they're fighting a bum, because anyone can look good fighting a bum. But if you know MMA, if you know the sport, you can determine whether a fighter is good or not fighting bums. Like Khamzat Chimaev, I laid minus 300 on him in his UFC debut, because even though he was fighting bums on the regional scene, you could just tell he was good, you know. And I thought the same about Michael Page. I could just tell he's a very, very tricky fighter, very good fighter. The entire MMA community clowned him, but now he's coming to the UFC, he's getting a lot of respect. It's funny how things switch, you know, like it's kind of like what happened with Peyton Talbot, right? You know, Peyton Talbot came in and everyone was clowning him. And then after the Cameron Simon fight, you know, he just got massive respect. Everyone's like, okay, this guy's a serious striker. He's an elite striker. And yeah, people were saying that he could beat Sean O'Malley and stuff like that, which is funny because it was literally my biggest tweet ever when I tweeted that a couple of years before. You know, people just saying that I'm stupid. So, you know, the market sentiment shifts massively. And I'm happy that the market sentiment has shifted on Michael Venom Page, because they finally recognize his skill set. You know, battered Kevin Holland, fought very closely with Ian Gary, two very good fighters. And we can always make money off market shifts, market sentiments, when they're not founded in reality. So with this one, I would honestly smash Michael Venom Page at this number if it was firstly a few years ago, and secondly, not in Saudi Arabia. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, boys. I think both fighters are going to have their chance to win the fight. I think Shara Magomedov is going to have to use a lot of kicks in this fight, which he always does. I think that Michael Venom Page's leg is out there to be kicked because he's a karate fighter. And what that means is he stands side on, right? He's standing side on with the lead leg very wide apart. You know, if you're a Muay Thai fighter, it's not as easy to leg kick you because it's just, you're standing straight on. To defend the leg kick, all you do is lift your leg up, right? Whereas when you're a karate fighter, you can't really check from the side on, right? Because you're going to lose all your balance. So it's very easy to kick your lead leg out. Now, Michael Venom Page is a master of range control. So if someone tries to kick his leg, especially if they're not a seasoned striker, he just can move out the way, right? It doesn't always work. You know, we saw Douglas Lima knock him out basically with a leg kick to uppercut combo. But, you know, he has done well in defending the leg kicks and stuff like that. But going up against a seasoned kickboxer like Shara Magomedov, who literally excels with his kicks to all levels, head, body, and leg, I think that Shara is going to be able to do a lot of damage with the leg kick in this fight. I think early, Michael Venom Page will get off to a lead. I think he'll start cracking Shara. I think he'll look really good. But as the fight goes on, we've seen Shara kind of get better as fight goes on many times. You know, against Tricoli, he kind of did that. Even against Bruno Silva, he was putting it on him a little bit late. Also against Arman, obviously he didn't start that well in that fight and then ended up getting a knockout in round 2. So I think he makes reads in there. I think he gets more comfortable in there. And that's usually what happens with Michael Venom Page fights, is the opposite, right? He looks really good early, but he can get into a bit of a boring rhythm. He can start to slow down a little bit late. We saw that happen in the Ian Gary fight. We've seen that happen in some fights in his career as well, outside of the UFC and Bellator. So I think that's what's going to happen here. I think it's going to be a very close fight. I think it could even go to a split type decision or something like that. But I give Shara Magomedov some leg kick upside here. I give him some knockout upside because I believe he has a better chin than Michael Venom Page. You know, I think the durability upside is on Shara. So I give him the finishing upside, the leg kick upside, the finishing upside, and most certainly the hometown bias upside. Now, something I want to mention about hometown bias, right, is not what people think, because someone commented on my Twitter the other day and said, oh, there's absolutely no bias in the Paul Hughes fight. You're wrong, James. And the reason is because the person who scored the fight for Paul Hughes, or a draw or whatever they scored it, was actually from that region. And it was the two Western judges that scored it for Usman and Magomedov. But this person is not really understanding what hometown bias is. What hometown bias is, well, first of all, it can be a number of things. It can actually be the judges from the same region as the fighter that they call the fight for. That's like the basic entry-level bias, which can happen, right? It happened with Carlos Leal and Renat Fakhretdinov fight. The guy who scored it for Fakhretdinov 30-27, which no other judge did, was, I think his name was like literally Muhammad or something like that. So it can happen, but many other things can happen as well. The entire crowd is going to be supporting Shara Magomedov, right? So when the crowd cheers, that influences the judges. So the bias is created by the hometown crowd, which influences the judges, right? So that's one way that the judges can be influenced. And the second way is that if a fighter is from the region or has ties to the region, the judges a lot of times will know that going in, and they may want to be in the good graces of the commission or the people in charge of that region. And what is a way to do that? Score the fight for the fighters that also have connections to that region. Doesn't matter where the judge is born, he's still going to have his own personal interests. So we won't go too into the weeds about that stuff, but basically there's many ways hometown bias can affect the fight. And I do think we have to cap it in here a little bit, you know, and I am capping it in, which I do all the time. Doesn't mean you can't bet Michael Venom Page, right? You know, I did a recap of I did a live reaction to the Paul Hughes and Usman Nurmagomedov decision being read out, right? And a few people, you know, commented saying, oh, you shouldn't have bet on Paul Hughes because you should have known it will be a robbery. You should have capped it in. So I do cap these things in. Doesn't mean you can't bet on the fighter though. If there's value, there's still value. So you cap it in, you take away 10% or whatever it is. If there's still value, there's value, right? So there could still be value on Michael Venom Page here. And man, he might just go there and get a knockout and then no one cares about anything, right? I mean, if he takes the judges out of it with a knockout. Overall, my prediction is going to be Shara Magomedov wins the fight. I'm going to say that he wins a fight via decision, although I do think he can rock Page, just as I think Page can rock him, but I give him more of the finishing upside. One thing else I'll mention before we get off this fight is that Michael Venom Page is moving up to middleweight for this fight, right? So I don't think that's a good thing. He's a career welterweight, and now he's moving up to middleweight at like 37, 38 years old, or however old he is. So yeah, I think Shara Magomedov holds the advantage in this fight. I think he's going to win this fight. I think it could look close, but yeah, I do think he's going to win this fight. Sergei Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik is the next fight. So we've got Sergei Pavlovich coming in here with an 18-3 record, with the record on the Jairzinho side sitting at 15-5. Currently, they got Sergei Pavlovich as a massive favorite, sitting as a minus 335 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Jairzinho Rozenstruik sitting at plus 275. Now, this is a very interesting fight, boys. I've actually faded Sergei Pavlovich in his last two fights. Not because I don't think he's a good fighter. I just thought they were pretty bad matchups for him, and the price was good enough for me to bet it. So I bet Tom Aspinall at minus 120 or minus 125, and then also bet Alexander Volkov at plus 200. Am I going back to try and get the freebie over Sergei Pavlovich at the biggest price yet at plus 275? And it seems like money's coming in on Pavlovich, so we might even be able to get plus 300 or higher on Jairzinho come fight night. Question is, I don't know. I'm undecided. But I tell you what I'm not doing, betting Sergei Pavlovich at minus 330. This is a very, very interesting fight because I do feel like if Sergei doesn't knock him out in round one, Jairzinho has a good chance to put some pace on him, even though it's not really his game. But I mean, I think he has a higher pace than Sergei in round two and round three, I tell you that. Put some good jabs on him, bust him up a little bit, make him second guess himself. Maybe he tires out. And honestly, I can see him winning the fight via knockout or decision. Sergei is a fighter that he's a bum rushing fighter. He walks forward into range. He tries to knock you out. If he can't knock you out, he don't look good, man. He don't look good. He starts getting jabbed up. He starts getting hit a little bit. And I don't think that he is a fighter built to win 15-minute decisions. Jairzinho, on the other hand, is way more built to win a 15-minute decision. I mean, we've seen him win decisions before. We've seen him go into the fourth round against Shamil Gaziev. We've seen him get knockouts in round 5 against Alistair Overeem back in the day. He's got very good cardio. Can't say the same for Pavlovich. Now, I have to be honest, man. All things point to a Pavlovich getting a knockout in round 1 and coming back to, you know, what he is used to doing in the UFC. But after coming off a brutal knockout of Tom Aspinall, he did not look the same against Volkov, in my opinion. Now, obviously, they were sparring partners before. They were training partners. So that always adds a weird layer of things to the fight. So maybe he came out there and didn't fight to the best of his abilities because of the training partner situation, you know, or maybe he did it because he just got brutally knocked out in the UFC, you know, in the biggest fight of his career. And now he's coming back off another loss. So maybe he's going to come back even more tentative. Now, I do think there is some grey area in the Sergei Pavlovich mindset that we don't really know. And I don't think that's a positive going into the Jairzinho fight, especially not a minus 335, especially not in a heavyweight fight where Jairzinho can just hit him once and he can knock... Jairzinho can knock anyone out, we know that. So yeah, it's a weird fight for me, boys. I'm going to pick Pavlovich to win via knockout in round 1. You know, that's my official prediction. But no one cares about official... Well, everyone cares about official predictions, but that's not the way to beat the bookies. The way to beat the bookies is not who you think is going to win the fight, it's where you think the value is on the fight. And I think that has been proven right time and time again in 2025 with the likes of Nurmagomedov losing, with the likes of Peyton Talbot losing as a massive favorite, Rinya Nakamura losing as a massive favorite, and a bunch of other fighters early in 2025. You know, it's really about where the value is. And I honestly think Jairzinho Rozenstruik holds some value here. Will I play him? I don't know. What's Jairzinho decision? Because that could be an absolute bomb of a little prop that we take a small shot on for insane profit. So Jairzinho Rozenstruik by points is plus 700 on Bet Online. But let me tell you something now. It'll probably be way bigger, probably up by plus 1,000 on some other books. I'm almost certain it will be because, yeah, Bet Online's usually a little bit sharper than most other books. So, yeah, that's it, boys. My prediction is Sergei Pavlovich KO in round 1. But I actually might take a poke on Jairzinho. I'm going to take some time to decide. I'm not rushing in anything now. No money's on the line yet, but I will be making plays today and tomorrow, and he might be one. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. Next fight we've got to speak about is Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. I can't wait for this one, boys. And Said Nurmagomedov is coming into this fight with a record of 18-3, while Vinicius Oliveira is coming in with a very similar record, 21-3. So currently, Said Nurmagomedov is the favorite in this matchup, with his price tag sitting at minus 152, with the underdog price tag on Vinicius Oliveira coming back at plus 132. This is a banger of a fight, boys, and I can't wait to speak about it. So Said Nurmagomedov is a very dangerous fighter, right? He has a super slick, tight ninja choke, and he has submitted multiple guys in the UFC with that one move. So you better not stick your head anywhere near his hips or his arm or his armpit or his ribs, or go head outside or anything like that, because that motherfucker's gonna wrap you up in the ninja choke and you're gonna be done, right? We've seen fighters that have never been submitted before get submitted, like Said Yakub Kakramanov, because this choke is just so tight, it's so fast, and he does it very good. You know, it's like Islam Makhachev with his Dash choke, Khamzat Chimaev with his Dash choke. Some fighters just have their chokes or have their submissions, and most certainly Nurmagomedov's one is the ninja choke. It's funny because, you know, his main move is the ninja choke, but he's actually a striker. Good spinning back kicks, stays on the outside, good kicks in general. I don't think he's got the best hands, but he's decent. You know, he can mix it up there. One thing I will say is that the guy gets tired a lot. And in this fight, he better not get tired in this fight, because Vinicius Oliveira will not, right? And he will keep coming forward and he will try and knock you the hell out, like he did against Sopaj in that fight where he was down going into round 3 and he ended up out cardioing Sopaj and knocking him out brutally with one of the contenders for knockout of the entire year with that great knee that he threw. So Oliveira comes forward and he keeps coming forward all 3 rounds. And, you know, we've seen Said gas out before. I've seen him gas out bad against Kakramanov. I've seen him gas out against Martinez. And I think that Oliveira is going to be able to outlast him here, you know. Now, will it go all 3 rounds? That's where I'm not so sure. Oliveira's been finished before. Said's one of the best finishers in the division. And I definitely think he's got a chance to do some spinning back kick finish. Obviously, ninja choke finish. You know, that is a possibility there. If he doesn't, I don't see how this fight isn't super close, maybe even favoring Vinicius in a 3-round fight. This is a tough one for me, boys. Vinicius is going to be the bigger guy here, the stronger guy here. I think Said's going to have to take him down to win cleanly, because I don't think he's going to be able to do his spinning back kick game on the feet for too long. You know, in bursts, it's good. But in terms of consistently doing that to win rounds and win minutes, I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think for him to cover the favorite price tag, he's probably going to need to grapple here. Can he grapple? Yes. We've seen Vinicius grappled multiple times. We've seen Said grapple people before. So he can do it. I don't think he has the cardio, to push the wrestling for 15 minutes though. I could see him winning a round or maybe even 2 via grappling and completely dying in the 3rd round like Sopaj did and even getting knocked out. I definitely could see that happening. I also think that the physicality and the size and strength of Vinicius will make it hard for Said to grapple him. Said's not a grappler who's just going to ground you and lay on you for 15 minutes. Not really his style. He's very slick with the submissions and the transitions, and he can take you down. You know, he's got takedowns before. I've seen him take people down, but it's not really something that he can do for 15 minutes, in my opinion. You know, he can barely strike for 15 minutes, so I don't think he's going to be able to grapple. So I'm going to side with Oliveira on this one. I really am. I think Vinicius is going to win the fight. I'm picking another underdog. Jesus Christ, it's like all the underdogs. I think I've picked Shara was the only favorite I picked, and even then I said Page, you know, like, well, I didn't really say Page had value, but, you know, potentially. But yeah, Jairzinho I said had value. Imavov, I picked him to win straight up. And Vinicius Oliveira, I'm picking him to win straight up again. So another underdog, boys. I think the power is going to play a big part later in the fight. I think the cardio is going to play a big part later in the fight. Nurmagomedov, lost a fight recently against Martinez. Oliveira is streaking. I think the trajectory-wise, we've seen Nurmagomedov recently not perform well. Umar gassed out badly in that fight. Usman gassed out even worse in his fight. And I think Saeed, who's the biggest gasser of the lot, is going to gas out in this fight. Things often happen in threes. And I really think we're going to see another gas out for the third time in a row for the third Nurmagomedov. I really think we're going to see that. So my prediction is Vinicius wins this fight. I don't know whether it's going to be inside the distance. I feel like Saeed has more chance of getting the choke and winning inside the distance. Oliveira definitely has a knockout upside, but I think it's more than likely going to be a decision. But the round 3 will be tough. It'll be just beating him up. And people will be saying after it went into round 4, he'd probably knock him out. Maybe something like that. But man, it's hard to get super accurate with those type of predictions. My prediction is Vinicius wins this fight. Right, and this is another banger that I'm going to speak about, boys. This is Fares Ziam and Mike Davis. This is a good fight, boys. So Fares Ziam is coming in with a 16-4 record. Mike Davis has an 11-2 record. Now, I'm going to be fast with this one, boys. I was very, very upset because I saw Fares Ziam at plus 210, and I said to myself, okay, I'm going to research that later, and maybe I'll lock in a bet on Fares Ziam because I think that price is wide based on what I know of the two fighters. I didn't tape that night because I was too busy with other things. The next day I woke up to do it, Fares Ziam was plus 140, something crazy like that. He had dropped down massively. And then I was like, oh, I don't really care anymore. I'm not going to rush to research it. And then now he's like plus 125. I think Fares Ziam going to win the fight. I'm picking him to win the fight. Is there still value on him at plus 125? It's possible. It comes down to where Mike Davis is at mentally. The guy's a streamer. He plays a lot of games, but he still comes in there to fight, and he fights well every fight. I didn't love how he looked against Slava. I bet him in that fight, quite big as well. He won the fight, but he got caught on the feet multiple times. He didn't really do much with Slava on the ground, which isn't good because I don't think Slava has anything on the ground. We've seen time and time again now against fighters like Mark Diakiese and Chase Hooper that he's basically a white belt on the ground. Mike Davis couldn't really do much to him on the ground. I mean, he got him in some good positions, but Slava kept getting back up. That wasn't a good look in my opinion. Fares Ziam has improved recently. It's kind of like Mike Davis is going down here and Fares Ziam is going up here. So I think Fares Ziam is going to be able to defend the takedowns and just win the fight on the feet. Will he knock Mike Davis out? Mike Davis is a tough motherfucker. But I do think that, he's getting hurt a little bit. Well, in a Slava fight, he got hurt. I don't want to say he's getting hurt recently, but in a Slava fight, he wasn't reacting to shots great. I don't know whether it's going to be a knockout or... Look, both fighters can win the fight. I want to say that, right? This isn't the most confident pick of all time because Mike Davis has big grappling upside here. This is this huge grappling upside. Fares Ziam has been molested on the ground before against Terence McKinney. And he has been grappled by multiple fighters before. Claudio Puelles was a bad fight. But I think he just had an off night on that one. But both fighters definitely have the chance to win here. Mike Davis has massive grappling upside. And it's tough to know whether he's going to be able to grapple Fares Ziam. My brain tells me not to win the fight. I think he'll get a couple of takedowns, but my brain tells me no. But Mike Davis is very athletic, very strong, and I don't think Fares Ziam has seen this type of grappler since Terence McKinney, with the terms of the athleticness and just the way you can just shoot him for a double and you don't even see it coming. And what happened there? Terence ran through him. I think he's got better, but has he got better enough to defend it from Mike Davis? I don't know, man. 5 years ago, Mike Davis is max bet territory massively. But like I said, man, this is 2025, not 2020. So I'm going to pick Ziam to win the fight. I'm not confident in it, and I'm going to take some more time to decide whether I want to play it or not. But I am going to pick another underdog to win another fight. So that's it, boys. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. We're going to do the most fun part now, though, which is the Wheel of Fortune, where I am giving away 1 month free of my Elite Zone VIP membership to whoever wins the Wheel of Fortune, which is entered automatically by everybody who comments on any of my YouTube videos, right? So if you comment on this YouTube video, you're going to be entered to the next draw, which will likely happen next week. We have got a 16-week run of UFC events, boys. So If you don't win the Wheel of Fortune, don't worry. You can still go to my website, lucrativemmabetting.com, and sign up for either a weekly package if you just want to test it out for 1 week, or a monthly package, or even a yearly package if you want to lock in with me long term. And for that, you'll get all of my betting predictions for not only the main card fights, but for all of the fights, my official betting picks, the actual bets that I make personally, as well as full card breakdowns on every fight on the entire card, and PFL picks, Bellator picks, LFA picks. We go lots of regional scene as well. You also get my long shot props, long shot parlays, a bunch of stuff. So now's definitely the time to sign up, because we have a 16-week run of UFC events, and we're gonna have bets on basically every event. So yeah, lucrativemmabetting.com if you wanna sign up to that. But maybe you won't need to, because maybe you're gonna win. There's only one winner and there's a lot of comments, but let's get into the Wheel of Fortune and see who wins now. All right, let's go, boys. We're gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune now. Let's see who it's gonna land on. There's a lot of comments on this one. It is Alpha something. Well done, Alpha Tips, alphatip.x. You have won 1 month free of the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. Congratulations, bro. All you need to do is message me on social media. I will verify that it's you messaging me. Don't worry, I have many ways to do that. And then we will get you hooked up on my website for 1 free month for the Elite Zone, where you get access to all of the stuff that I just mentioned. As I said, if you haven't won this week, not to worry. You can go to lucrativemmabetting.com and sign up if you wish to get inside my VIP. But outside of that, good luck this weekend, boys. Hopefully we can make some money. I want justice this weekend for the Paul Hughes plus 400 bet. I'm still looking for justice from that Carlos Leal plus 200 bet. And as we know in sports betting, the variance swings one way and then the other way. So I know I am due for massive amounts of good luck and good variance soon. And I think it's going to start this weekend, boys. So good luck on your bets. Hopefully you smash it. I know I'm gonna. And I'll see you next week on this channel for another show. Let's get it.